This is Nabila Rahman. I'm the Digital Transformation Strategist in United News of Bangladesh, UNB, and I've been holding leadership roles in the tech industry for many years. Today, I'm very excited to launch our 6th webinar of the Tech Collective, and the topic for today is Women in Technology, How to Become a Blockchain Developer. If you like this episode, please like, comment, and share. In the metaverse, you can be anything you want, an ape in a hoodie, a cartoon cat, even a human who looks nothing like you. But most early adopters of crypto look the same. The industry has a staggering gender gap where men far outnumber women. Crypto, the brainchild at the intersection of tech and finance, magnifies long-standing inequities in these sectors. Globally, only 21% of crypto owners are women, and female ownership of Bitcoin and Ethereum are even lower at 15% and 20% respectively. Of the 121 top crypto companies around the world, only 5 are led by women. Less than 5% of crypto developers are women, according to an analysis of the 100 most popular blockchain projects submitted to GitHub, Microsoft's code sharing site. However, the results are not surprising considering the tech industry has historically been male dominated. And we will be learning more about this today, about the blockchain technology itself and how women can enter this exciting field. So without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce my co-host, whom you all know by now, Samuel Brettsfield, who is a tech entrepreneur living in Bangladesh for many years and will be co-hosting with me and this webinar. Thank you, Sam. Very excited to have you again. Please reintroduce yourself and our very special guest for today. Thank you.
Absolutely, Nabila. Great 6th episode of our webinar. As always, very excited to be here. So Sam Brettsfield for the audience. I'm the CEO of Be Global. Again, please like, comment, and share these webinars. Please share these widely. We want to get this content out to our audiences and new audience members. Today, I'm really excited to introduce to the audience Nikki Sanders. I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with Nikki on numerous blockchain projects, but Nikki is a lead engineer at a company called TaxBit, and she leads all blockchain research and development, specifically for DeFi and NFT contracts. She has a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of Utah and an extensive background in software engineering. She's worked for a number of groups where she's been responsible for security standards in digital securities and mobile application development. Nikki, so glad to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time today.
Yeah, you guys, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Awesome. So, Nikki, tell us a little bit kind of your background and kind of how you got to where you are today and kind of what that career path looked like.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I got my bachelor's degree and in computer science, which even that, especially like in the United States and in Utah, I was definitely like a minority. I think there were like 3 women out of my graduating class of 500 people. So it was a super small group of us. So that kind of like kicked off my career of being like, okay, I'm going to be like the only woman in the room. And that's okay. And this is just what I'm signing up for. So from the beginning, I like kind of learned quickly like how to have a really, really thick skin and how to really roll with the punches and like push back when necessary. In a way. So yeah, after I graduated college, I started as a backend developer. I did some fintech stuff. I worked for some defense contracting firms here in the United States, which is great. And it's like super stable work, but it was so boring. Like nothing ever changes. Just like it was boring. I wasn't really learning anything new, like technology wise. And one day, I had a buddy from college came to me and said, hey, I'm working with this venture firm that's spun out of a big company here in the United States, Overstock.com. They're spinning out this like little like incubator to explore blockchain technology. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds really exciting and I love learning new things. So count me in. And so this was in 2015. So I started there. And it was really like 2015, super early days. Ethereum was just starting to come out. So as kind of smart contracts were being developed and people were figuring out like how to use them, what their purposes could be, I was figuring it out too, and kind of like along for the ride. And quickly we learned while I was there, we learned like, oh wow, like these smart contracts and tokenizations are a great application for digital securities, like actual stocks. And so we were really like exploring that aspect of like the blockchain space. And really, I worked like with the SEC and FINRA on coming up with like what a standard, like an ERC standard or like a smart contract standard would look like that would be compliant and not get an immediate cease and desist, and like all the rules involved and how that whole flow works, which is really antiquated and pretty nuts actually. Really like backwards technology, like not forward thinking. So really kind of worked on that. I got a few patents in that area. So that was a pretty fun thing to work on. And then, yeah, then our firm also spun up like a non-custodial crypto app. So like you actually like held your own private keys, but we had a way that you could recover those private keys. So because we quickly learned people were not great at like writing down their 12 words and holding onto their own crypto. So we had like a way to like reconfigure your private key if you deleted the app on your phone or something like that. So I ran that team for a while, and then and then the founders of TaxBit reached out to me being like, hey, like up to this point, we have done like centralized exchange API integrations, and we're now getting like really into the blockchain side. Like we need on-chain data. People are doing a lot of things on-chain. How do we get this data? How do we make sense of it in like a tax and accounting way? So I joined them in June of 2021 and built up a team of blockchain engineers with me, really built out their whole services on how to ingest this blockchain and specifically like complex smart contract data and make sense of it, because the data doesn't always reflect what's actually happening in like a taxable way. So that's been a really fun challenge. And now and during that journey, I really got into like the public speaking aspect and like writing articles on the technology, explaining the technology, being on panels, or especially around blockchain technology. So that's been a really fun part of my career path as well. And kind of in the last month, I've kind of taken more of a shift to focus more on that, which is really cool. I really liked that part of the job of actually like getting out and talking about it, because we all know engineers, like I would say like the stereotypical engineer is like super smart, really good at what they do on the technology side, but maybe not as good at talking about it externally. And I found I was actually really like pretty good at that, and I liked it. So I've been kind of able to focus on that side. I can explain these complex technological things at a level that hopefully most people can understand.
That's awesome. That's like seems like 360 degree. I mean, you found your niche. You as an early adopter, tried this technology, and you like even be able to be upfront and talk about complex technology. So explain to us what blockchain is in a very simple way.
Ideally, that's always the goal. It's hard because like blockchain tech is just, it's still so early that it's still just inherently like super technical. A lot of like those complexities have not yet been abstracted away. I think we're going to get there, but it's still like pretty tough to understand, pretty tough to participate in. And I think it'll get easier, but we're not quite there yet.
Well, what are some of the things that you're kind of seeing as trends in the industry at this point, and kind of like where do you think things are headed if we were to have like maybe a 5-year outlook? I mean, where do you think kind of DeFi and smart contracts are headed? Do you envision a world where everything is going to be an NFT and our car titles will be NFTs? I mean, well, what does that really look like?
Yeah, I feel like we're getting there now, where people are at the point of like, okay, So what problems can we actually solve with like blockchain technology and with smart contracts? And how do we make it seamless? And so the end user doesn't even notice what's going on, but it's just like a better technological fit and a more seamless experience for the user. So yeah, like titles, anything that's like a one-to-one like tie between like an object and like its purpose. That's like perfect for NFTs, especially if being decentralized is a good thing for that technology. I'm thinking that for a while I was seeing a lot of people kind of like, oh, we're gonna do like these like reward points or like something like just like that's super centralized right now. We're gonna do that on the blockchain. And every time I would talk to people about that, I'm like, but why? Like if you don't need decentralization, blockchain technology is just an expensive, slow database. So I think people are now starting to think of like, okay, what actually needs blockchain tech instead of a SQL database, which decentralization and like a trustless environment are key to the whole point of the blockchain. So if you don't need those, don't use them. And one other trend I'm really seeing now, especially with like the last 6 months of like kind of like the DeFi space kind of, you know, going through some tough times, is people are finally kind of paying attention to the economics of things a little bit more. I like to think anyway, being like, oh, like asking the questions of, okay, where is this yield coming from? Because if there's nothing like generating the yield that are like supplying these big like interest payouts for the people like staking on these platforms, there's like no value, and like you are the product. You're not, and you're just going to get killed by the inflation of the token. It's not going to work. So I think people are finally paying attention of like, okay, creating a platform where we're just generating more tokens and giving those to people as rewards is not sustainable and doesn't actually like bring people more value. We actually have to do the work and figure out, okay, what is actually valuable in these financial systems that we're trying to replace?
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. I think that you know, it's kind of interesting where you see, you know, these blow ups of like Celsius or Voyager or even the Terra Luna debacle, you know, and I think that you're absolutely right. And I think, you know, we kind of look at now at the crypto winter, if you call it that, you know, I think there's a lot of people building right now. And I think that there's, you know, a lot of really like people are just heads down, putting the hard work in, you know. So if you're thinking about like, you know, I'm a college student, I'm here in Bangladesh, I'm a young woman, I'm interested in pursuing this career path in you know, in computer science and maybe learning about blockchain, like what advice do you have? Like, where do you start? You know, like what would the path be?
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I've been kind of struggling with is like, I hate there being like gatekeeping into like new technologies and new things, which like, yeah, because a lot of things like you don't need a degree to do. When I'm hiring, I'm like, if I don't care where their degree is from, if they have one, I don't care if they don't have a degree. If they have some like years of experience and can like prove that they can do the job, perfect. I don't care about a pedigree. I've been noticing with like smart contract development specifically, this is becoming popular in people like, I mean, with all the news articles out, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I want to get into this field. And they'll come in on these like Reddit forums and be like, hey, like I want to learn how to be a smart contract developer, like no development background, but this is what I want to do. And I do not think that's the best way to go about this. Smart contract development is just inherently very difficult and very precise. There are so many things that can go wrong. We hear about hacks like once a week where there was just like a bug in the code and someone was able to exploit it. It's like it's coding like on steroids, just because the risks are so much greater and so much more visible. When you like deploy your smart contract on like Ethereum or Polygon or something, people can go in and read that code. I mean, if you can like actually go and upload your smart contract code to like the block explorers so people can see it. But even if you don't do that, there are ways to decompile it and kind of get a basic idea of what your code's doing and figure out like the best way to exploit it. So as a like in the backend development world, you deploy your code and it's on a server and it's like behind firewalls and it's not visible. People can't see what your like code looks like. That is not the case with smart contracts. So it gives hackers just a huge like entry point into figuring out how to exploit your code. So it's so much more difficult in that space. And then there's actual like money involved, like actual like assets being involved. Like people are sending Ethereum around, and sometimes these smart contracts like hold a lot of assets. So there's a huge motivation for hackers to come in and try to exploit it. So it's just super high risk. So with all that risk, it makes it really hard for people as like a first smart contract or first programming language to do. Especially like it's a lower level language in general. And I think people who do the best learning Solidity for an example, are people who are C developers. And so that is, a different thought process and paradigm. A lot of web developers are trying to get in it because a lot of the syntax kind of can look similar to like JavaScript, but really like how the code works and the stuff you're dealing with is super low level. You're dealing with like literally like bits matter, and it's just really precise, and you have to be super optimized, which is not the case in front end development, but it is the case in like low level C development. So it's much closer to that side. So people who do well that I've met are people with like actual like engineering degrees, like computer science degrees, where you get into that low level programming, that low level paradigm where you're dealing with like memory like slots, and you're dealing with like assembly code, because that applies much more to smart contract development than writing websites, if that makes sense. So I hope that gets better, but it's not a great first programming language. I would be a solid like a backend developer before getting into smart contract development.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and are there tutorials like let's say they have C-level programming skills, and then how do they go about learning regarding this blockchain programming? Is there any kind of like open source, any tutorials that, because I don't know, there's I know in Bangladesh there's probably not any like blockchain development school that they can go to, right? There's like programming schools. So
yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, I know. So is there any special like portal that they can go to, any websites or any place that they can self-learn these stuff?
Yeah, I know a lot of those are coming out all the time, which is awesome. But I love that point where like this is not yet like broadly taught in schools. So everyone is like kind of having to be self-taught. Like for sure, I there was no way for me to learn this in like 2015, 2016 in an academic way. I was literally like reading the compiler because the docs were so bad that it was actually hard to tell like what was happening and like what to expect. So fortunately, like with my background, it wasn't easy. I was like, oh man, like this is awful, having to read this compiler code and see like line by line, like actually what's happening and if there's a bug. And I was finding bugs in the compiler and sending those off to the Ethereum Foundation, being like, I don't think this does what you want it to do. So I had to learn the super hard way. So I would not recommend that. It was awful. But now there's a lot of places are coming out with tutorials. One fun one that's just free and on the internet, it's called Crypto Zombies. That is a great way just to like get your feet wet, get into smart contract development. A lot of these like just like courses online now are starting to have like smart contract and blockchain engineering courses like Udemy, Coursera, stuff like that. They're coming out with stuff all the time. I haven't ever gone through them, but I've talked to some people who've done them, and they have really positive things to say. And I think they're getting really good at like bringing that, like teaching these courses and like pointing out like the big like problems you need to watch out for.
Great. Thank you so much for those tips. We'll definitely put those links here so that our audience can also go. Those who may be interested in this new technology. I know it's not that new, but it's still very new and foreign, because I think a lot of people are still confused how to use it. And even like from an investment point of view. Yeah. So I think it's black hole everywhere.
It
I
is.
mean, I have a lot to learn on this for myself.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, Nabila. I mean, I went down the rabbit hole. There's just, so much opportunity, I feel like, in this field. Nikki, tell us, what are some of the, we talked about trends, but are there any specific projects that are out there that excite you a lot? I think, we kind of look at Polygon and what they're doing, and they were kind of recently added to the Disney Accelerator, which I thought was really exciting news. Are there any like projects that you think the audience should maybe kind of take a look at that excite you?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think a lot of these things that are happening now where these big companies are getting into into the blockchain technology is just so cool. And like 5 years ago, I would not have thought it was going to happen this quickly. So the technology is maturing very quickly. You're right. That Disney stuff with Polygon is huge. I mean,
Right.
It blows my mind. I'm like, how often, I don't know, that this random little technology, this little like layer 2 blockchain gets like propped up by the likes of Disney. So that's really cool.
That was created in India, which is a neighbor of Bangladesh, right? I mean,
yes,
the founding team right next to where we are, Nabila, right? And
Yeah.
that's so cool too. It's like this technology is truly international because it's public and open to anybody with with open internet access. So that to me is really cool because it's just a borderless technology, right? It's awesome. Yeah, I love stuff like that. I love all the stuff going right now with like luxury brands starting to get into like their authenticity verification via blockchain technology and NFTs. That's awesome. I love like logistics tracking via blockchain, and that's so cool to me because those are situations where you're like, where did this thing come from? Like, where did all the ingredients come from? And if you could track that on chain in a trustless, like permissionless way, it solves a lot of problems with secrecy and maybe people not being so honest because it's open, right? So I love like tracking stuff via blockchain. I think that's going to be really big. I love like what Nike's doing with like their crypto kicks, NFTs is pretty cool. I'm really excited about like ticketing, just because who hasn't like heard of like, oh, for the Super Bowl, there were like, I can't even remember the numbers, but thousands of fraudulent tickets that were sold, and people actually like show up and their ticket is invalid or it has already been scanned. I cannot believe in this day and age, like that is still happening. And then it's really cool because NFTs literally solve that problem. So I'm really excited about projects that are kind of digging into that, just even like on like a selfish personal level where I'm like, that would be so cool if this was no longer a concern.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just see so many, industries and categories and verticals that will be disrupted by this technology. And I don't think even a lot of people are thinking big enough, right? Like what the power of the NFT can do. I think a lot of people at this point, it's so new, right? You kind of think of like when the internet first came out, you think about, 94, 95, when, the browser was there and people are just learning this. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting. Definitely excited about it. And those are all wonderful examples, certainly.
And opportunities, I feel. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many use cases that we haven't even scratched the surface. And we're talking about, the virtual yacht and all the NFTs and all that stuff, right? And what you talked about with logistics and where the ingredients are coming from, I think transparency will be so big. And with the next generation, they want to know who's like growing the vegetables. Where does the farmers live? I mean, our children, they want to know more, and they're more, I think the next generation from now, most people will be vegetarian because they're also, I feel like they're also, conscious and on a higher level than we have been. And they are more care, not only about the environment, but where the food is coming from, where the clothing coming from, who is manufacturing, not just made in Bangladesh, but actually the source. How are these people living? Where do they go to work? Where do these kids go to school? I think the next generation cares. I don't know more than we ever did. And I think these NFTs and these cryptocurrencies will all merge with Web 3.0. Everything will just talk to each other. And I don't know if it's going to be a beautiful world or a scary world, but I think everybody will know about everything very, very soon. And it's going to be all very real and very transparent and
Exactly.
very honest. Yeah. I think we're going somewhere. I'm very excited.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit personal. Like, I know you have kids, right?
I do.
Oh, yeah. How many children do you have?
I have two. I have a 14-year-old boy who's just starting high school
Wow.
like next week, which I'm like, okay, let's go.
Mhm.
And then I have a 6-year-old girl who's going to be starting first grade.
Awesome. So is it a juggle? Like, I know it's a juggle with every career being a woman, and the stakes
It
are
is.
always higher, but with blockchain, it's a new technology. You're learning always, all the time. And I'm sure there are challenges being, having that work-life balance. How do you manage? How do you balance it all, being a woman in from the technology frontier?
Great question. It's kind of funny. Me and my husband early on came to the conclusion, so like we both work full time in technology, and we've always really been good at splitting all the care tasks at home super evenly. Because I'm not a super domestic person, and so and he definitely fills all those gaps, and we're definitely a great partnership, which I think is huge. And something else we came to the conclusion early on was for things that you have two things in life pretty much, right? You have time and you have money, and anything you need to do is a balance on, okay, are we going to spend the time to do this, or are we going to spend the money to have someone else do this? And so we've come to we have our great lists on things that we do like to do ourselves and the things that we're going to delegate for other people to do. So that's really I don't know how people would be able to have two working parents with kids any other way without the name of my game is delegate. I have people who come and help me clean my house, and we have a nanny who is just wonderful and who's able to take the kids where they need to go during the day if I'm not around and not able to do it, and pick them up from school and take them to do fun things to keep them busy. And she's way more creative than I am and has way more energy than I do. And so that's a great resource. So yeah, it's all about delegation for me.
I love it. Thank you. That was very honest. You're trying not to do it all. You're keeping your energy for the stuff that is your passion that you're building. And yeah, I
Yep.
think it's a very important part, because I think being woman, everybody wants to do everything, and they feel bad if they're not being able to do it. They want to take care of the house. They want to, and you said a very important thing. Delegation is key. And I think it's important to understand what you're good at and what you're not good at, and just,
Exactly.
and give it to somebody who's actually better or can do it.
That's exactly it. I'm not good at these things, so I'm gonna have someone else who's a professional take care of it. And that's exactly it. And then it's definitely a fun practice of not carrying the guilt with it, which that definitely happens sometimes. Especially I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is more of a conservative, traditional family rules area. So I really have to kind of push against that a little bit harder sometimes, which is fun. And then I love the women we want to have it all in this modern world. And I definitely think we can have it all, but maybe not all at once. There are definitely days where I'm today is a career day, or I was just for 3 days in Chicago, and can't really parent when I'm out of town. But then I'm able to take my energy for when I am home and really focus it on things I want to do with my kids and want to do with my family, and be able to focus it without having to spend time on things that detract from that.
Thank you. That was very refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So if you don't have anything, I think we can end very soon.
Yeah.
All right.
We're at time and want to be respectful of that. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much for your time. And, we've learned a lot on this very complex technology on blockchain. We know that, it's not very diversified. There's a huge gap. And so basically, we thank you for your time. And we understand the gender gap in cryptocurrency exceeds similar gaps in traditional investments, such as equities, exchange traded funds, real estate. I mean, the gaps are there everywhere, but I think here in crypto, it's much bigger. And diversifying the crypto space is about more than just doing what's right, Bitcoin and Ethereum market caps are set to hit $1 trillion as early as 2023. And the
Wait, the
metaverse
market, go back. The market cap for crypto, 1 trillion?
for Bitcoin and Ethereum market caps
Wow.
are set to hit at 1 trillion as
Incredible.
early as 2023. And the metaverse economy is projected to hit nearly 13 trillion by 2030. Women
Wow.
need to be where the money is. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be where the money is. Sam, you and I need to be there where the money is.
You know.
So thank you so much, everybody, for your time. If you like this episode, please like, comment, and share, and let us know what topics you would like to see next. Thank you.